23. The phone that only rings after midnight. I work the night shift at a small regional security company. Mostly I sit in a booth with 3 monitors and drink terrible coffee. The job's easy. I just monitor the feed from 38 buildings around the city. Most are offices, schools, one hospital wing under renovation. Nothing much happens. But for the last 4 weeks, every night after midnight, my work phone rings. And it's not a regular line, it's a private handset. One of those old rotary style phones in black, mounted on the wall behind me. We were told it was a dead line, just there for decoration. Outdated, unplugged, but I heard it. Ring once, pause. Ring once. Only between 12:03 and 12:07 a.m. every single night, never more than 2 rings. At first I ignored it, told myself it was phantom wiring or some power surge thing, but on night 6 I picked it up and I wish I never had. There was no dial tone, no static, no sound, just breathing. Very slow, very wet, very close. I said hello and the breathing stopped. For 10 full seconds, silence. Then, in a voice that sounded too close, like it was inside the receiver, I see you looking at me. I slammed the phone down so hard the bell shattered. I reported it. Supervisor just laughed. He said there's no wiring in the wall. No way the phone even had power. They chalked it up to stress, or maybe a prank from one of the IT guys. I believed them. For a day. Until I noticed something else. Every night that the phone rang, the camera in Building 16, an old insurance office, flickered once, always at 12:06 a.m. And every time, there was a figure just barely visible in the feed, standing at the far edge of the parking lot, a tall, pale person in a plastic raincoat. Not moving, just standing, facing the exact direction of my booth. I zoomed in. The image broke up, switched cameras. They all glitched the moment I focused on him. I printed a freeze frame and tried to enhance it. Didn't help much, but in the static his face was wrong, like it was drawn instead of real. Eyes blacked out with ink smudges, no mouth, just a black, dripping hole where one should be. I started unplugging the phone every night. Didn't matter. It still rang, even when the cord wasn't attached to the wall, even when I threw the receiver into a locked drawer. Ring once, pause, ring once. Last Friday, the feed from Building 16 didn't flicker. I thought maybe it was over, but then I saw him again. Only this time, he wasn't in the parking lot. He was inside the lobby, still not moving, still staring, but closer to the elevators. I turned off the feed. A few seconds later, the phone behind me screamed. Not rang, screamed. A distorted wail through the receiver that made the glass in my booth vibrate. I unplugged every power source in the room. But the lights stayed on, the monitors flickered to static, and on every screen, his face. Smudged, stretched. Ink pouring from his mouth like it was draining out of the cameras themselves. I ran. Didn't clock out, didn't grab my coat. I didn't go back to work the next night or the next. But they kept calling me. First my cell, then my landline, then my mother's house phone. And last night, the rotary phone in my apartment rang. I didn't even know it was hooked up. I stared at it for a full minute before it stopped. I picked it up. Silence. And then, we moved the camera. Now we're behind you. I haven't turned around since, and I don't think I can, because I know if I look, he'll open his mouth, and I'll hear what the scream really sounds like. Story 24. There's a room in the airport that's not on any map. This happened to me last winter, and I haven't been able to explain it to anyone without sounding insane. I work for an airline, low-level stuff, mostly luggage logistics, working behind the scenes at a regional airport on the night shift. My job is to make sure baggage gets loaded properly, logged, and routed to the right flight. I'm not in customer service. I don't deal with passengers. I never even see the terminal. But one night, I got a strange call over the internal radio. It was from someone using a clearance code that didn't match any department. The voice just said, "Gate D33 is experiencing a security issue. Please check holding room Delta 7. I stared at the walkie. Gate D33 didn't exist. There was no such room listed in the schematics. We only had 32 gates. I radioed back. There is no D33. Silence. Then, holding room Delta 7 is open. That phrase again. No such thing in our system. I thought it might be a prank until all the conveyor belts in Section 4A stopped moving at the same time. Even the backup systems. Everything frozen mid-rotation. We'd never had a total freeze like that. I called it in. No response. Walkie just hissed. I went to the power junction to restart the belts manually, but as I passed one of the old mechanical doors, the kind they haven't used since the 90s, I noticed something odd. It was open. Inside was a long hallway I had never seen before. Low ceilings, dim blue fluorescence that flickered in slow rhythm. The air smelled like freezer burn and wet carpet. Paint on the wall read, Delta 7. I should have turned around, but something made me walk in. Some part of me, not curious, exactly, more like compelled. The hall stretched way longer than it should have. The airport isn't that big, but the corridor felt like it went on for a city block. At the end, there was a black door with no handle, no room number, just a white airport tag, like the kind they put on checked baggage. It read, Reclassified passenger hold until silent. And then, in pen underneath, unclaimed. I knocked. The door creaked inward on its own. Inside was a waiting room, old seats, cracked faux leather, a vending machine from the 1980s, and one man sitting alone. He wore a suit, looked like he hadn't slept in a decade, gray skin, sunken eyes, but what disturbed me most was that his carry-on bag was cuffed to his wrist, like he was the baggage. He looked up and said, I've been waiting for boarding. I stammered something. Sir, I think you're in the wrong. They sent you. Good. I was starting to think... Forgotten. He stood up. His shadow didn't. It stayed seated. Then the lights dimmed. A low, mechanical voice came over the intercom speakers in the ceiling. Now boarding. Silence. La. Final destination. Gate D33. The man turned and, with an expressionless smile, walked past me and into the hallway. The lights behind him turned off with every step he took, like he was erasing the corridor as he left. I turned to look back at the room. It was gone. Just an empty wall where the door had been. I ran back to the main wing. Belts had restarted on their own. Everything was working. No one remembered the outage. No one had ever heard of Delta 7. But later that night, I checked the baggage logs out of curiosity. One entry was highlighted in red. Tag number 0044873. Unclaimed. Listed as human silence in transit. And the assigned gate, D33. Now, every night when I work the graveyard shift, I check that same old door. It's always closed, usually locked, but sometimes I pass by and smell something strange. Like airplane carpet soaked in something chemical. Like time cooled down. And last week, taped to the wall beside the door was another luggage tag. It had my name on it. I bought it at a small roadside inn just outside of Flagstaff, Arizona. It wasn't much. 12 rooms, 1 floor, parking out front. Nothing fancy. The kind of place you check into when your car breaks down or you're too tired to keep driving. Most of my shifts were uneventful, a few late check-ins, occasional complaints about the AC or noisy neighbors. But there was one night I'll never forget. It started with a man who came in just past midnight. Middle-aged, wearing a heavy black coat despite the dry heat outside. He didn't say much, just slid his ID and credit card across the counter, eyes barely meeting mine. His name was Daniel Carver. There was something off about him. His skin was pale, like he hadn't seen sunlight in weeks. His eyes were sunken and glassy, as if they'd been fixed on something horrible for a long, long time. He asked for room 9. We don't assign rooms. Guests get whatever's next in rotation. But he insisted. Said he'd stayed in room 9 before, years ago. I looked it up. No record of him. Still, I gave it to him. Figured whatever. He walked to the room without luggage. No bag, no car in the lot. Just disappeared into the night. That should have been it. But at 3:37 a.m., the phone rang. Line 9. I answered. Static, a low hum, and then I left something in the walls. It was his voice, but wrong. It echoed like it wasn't coming from the room, like it was being routed through an old radio or recorded years ago. I hung up, checked the cameras. Room 9's feed was fuzzy. Not just poor quality, distorted, like the pixels were being pulled apart by something beneath the image. I grabbed the master key and went to check. The hallway to room 9 was colder than the rest of the building. The air smelled like mildew and copper. I knocked. No answer. When I unlocked the door, the lights flickered and cut out completely. My flashlight barely cut through the dark. The room was empty. No sheets on the bed. No sign of a guest. But the walls were peeling. And behind the peeling wallpaper, I saw something scratched into the drywall over and over again. Let me out! I stepped closer, trying to make sense of it, and the air changed, heavier, like being underwater. The room stretched. The corners pulled away, and a sound started rising, deep, humming like a voice without words. And then something moved, inside the wall. A hand pressed against the drywall from the other side, fingers long, thin, too many knuckles. I backed out and slammed the door shut. I called the manager, told him everything. He didn't sound surprised, just said, "That's the second time someone's checked into room 9 this month." When I went back to review the footage, the time he arrived, 12:08 a.m., was just a black screen. But the camera in the hallway had something, just for a second. Room 9's door opening by itself. Nothing came in, nothing came out, and his signature, it was gone from the guest log. Just a smudge on the line where his name had been. Room 9 is still locked now, permanently. But sometimes, around 3:37 a.m., the front desk phone rings, and it's always line 9. People used to live in a quiet little suburb outside of Pittsburgh. A cul-de-sac, you know the type. Identical houses, freshly cut lawns, mailboxes that match. He was the kind of guy who liked to be left alone. Single, older, worked nights at a print shop. Lived alone, kept to himself. He told me this story one night after a few beers out on the porch. He wasn't the type to joke around, but he told me this with a dead serious look in his eye. Said it still kept him up. It started with a knock, just after 10 p.m. 3 soft knocks at the front door. My uncle opened it, expecting maybe a lost delivery driver or a neighbor, but instead, there was a little girl standing on his porch. She looked out of place. No shoes, pajamas that were torn at the sleeve, hair tangled. She stared up at him and said, "Can I come in? I need to call my mom." He hesitated. Something about her voice was off, flat, like she was reciting lines, not speaking. But he let her in. She walked inside and sat down on the couch without another word. My uncle offered her the phone, but she didn't take it. She just looked at the front door. Then she asked, "Why did you open it?" My uncle asked what she meant, but she didn't answer. Just kept staring at the door, then slowly turned her head to look down the hallway. That's when she said it again. "It knows you can hear it now." He told her to wait and went to grab his phone in the kitchen, but when he came back, she was gone. The door hadn't opened, no windows. She just wasn't there anymore. He called the police, reported it. They searched the area, checked the neighbors' cameras. Nothing. No girl, no footage. It was like she'd never been there. He figured maybe it was a dream. Stress. But then the next night, 3 knocks. Same time. He didn't answer. Looked through the peephole. Nothing. But then came the voice. From the other side, "You opened it once." He stopped sleeping after that. Boarded up the door. Called the cops again. They chalked it up to stress. Maybe some local kid messing with him. But every night, same time. 3 knocks. Some nights he heard her walking around the house. Slow, bare feet on tile. The boards never budged. One night, he waited by the door with a camera. Set up his phone to record right at eye level with the peephole. When the knocking started, he didn't answer, just let it record. The next day, he played it back. The knocking was there, but no one was visible, except for one frame. Just one. The exact moment of the 3rd knock, the camera caught something. A face. Not hers, but something behind her. Tall, gray, bent sideways like it didn't know how to stand. Its mouth was open too wide. She wasn't alone, and whatever was with her is still coming back. He moved away after that, said the knocks stopped once he left the house, but every now and then he still hears them. Hotels, friends' places, even once in his car, always 3. Always at 10:03, and always followed by the same whisper, "You opened it once." Ready invited to a birthday party I don't remember agreeing to. I was home alone, sorting through old junk in my closet when I found the envelope. No postage, no return address, just my name in red pen across the front. Inside was a card. "You're invited to a celebration just for you." Date, today. Location, 16 Meadowcross Lane. Time, 6 p.m. sharp. It even said, "Please don't be late. We've been waiting so long." I thought maybe it was a prank, but the card smelled like old paper and birthday cake. This sweet, musty scent that made my stomach twist. I wasn't doing anything that night, so I drove out there. I almost turned back when I saw the house. It looked abandoned. Weather-worn paint, overgrown weeds, windows boarded over in some places, shattered in others. No balloons, no lights. And yet, when I parked, the porch light flicked on. something compelled me forward. I don't know why. I wasn't curious. I wasn't brave, but my body kept walking. When I opened the door, music started playing from somewhere inside. A warped, slowed down version of that happy birthday song, the kind you'd hear coming out of a broken music box. There were people inside, or they looked like people. Figures in party hats seated stiffly around a long dining table. Their faces were blurry, like I couldn't focus on them, like something in my brain refused to register what I was looking at. They didn't speak, didn't move, but they all turned toward me when I entered. At the head of the table sat a woman with a wide, cracked smile and a paper crown. She held up a cake knife and tapped it against her glass. "We can begin now," she said. "The guest of honor has arrived." They all clapped. Loud, robotic clapping that didn't match their unmoving hands. I tried to leave, but the door was gone. It wasn't just shut. It wasn't there anymore. The woman gestured to the seat at the other end of the table. It had my name on it. I sat. I don't remember how long I was there. The cake was brought out, a melted, collapsing thing with dozens of candles flickering erratically. The singing started again, that same distorted birthday song. When it ended, they all leaned in and whispered in perfect unison, "Blow out the candles or we'll blow you out." So I did, and the room went pitch black. When the lights returned, everyone was gone. No table, no chairs. Just me, standing in the middle of a cold, empty living room in an abandoned house. But the card was still in my hand. Only now the date had changed. Next celebration, April 9th. Your place, 6 p.m. And this time, it didn't say, "Please don't be late." It said, "You won't be able to leave." I don't know how to explain this, but I think something is using my vision like a projector. It started about 2 months ago. I'd be walking through my apartment and suddenly there'd be a flicker, like static, like a visual stutter in reality, a curtain that shook and smoothed before I could react. At first, I thought it was just migraines or lack of sleep, but then it happened when I was fully rested, wide awake, bright daylight, and then came the images. Not hallucinations, screens, little rectangles of glitching footage layered over reality, like ads in the corners of my vision, except they weren't selling anything. They were showing me things, always disturbing things. A family eating dinner in silence, mouths moving like they were dubbed wrong. A girl brushing her teeth over and over until her gums bled. An old man staring directly at me from a room I'd never been in. They'd flash for a second, then vanish. But the worst part? Some of them were live feeds. I tested it. I saw a man watering plants in one of the screens, and when I walked past the park later that day, he was there, wearing the same clothes, watering the same patch of grass. So now I was seeing real-time footage of places I hadn't visited yet. The screens got bolder. One appeared in the middle of my wall while I was watching TV. A full-sized, humming rectangle of moving images, like a floating monitor without a frame. It showed my apartment, but not as it was. As it would be. Things changed. Furniture moved. My TV was shattered. A bloody handprint on the fridge. I blinked, and it was gone. Then the voice started, not in my head, from inside my eyes. I could hear it behind my vision. Like someone was whispering through a tunnel made of my own nerves. Don't close your eyes too long. They move the world when you blink. You're a channel now, a window. I stopped sleeping. I started seeing strangers looking at me in public, like they recognized me, like I was famous for something I didn't agree to. And then I woke up one morning with my eyelids glued open. Not metaphorically, literally sealed. Clear film over both eyes. Transparent and cool like jelly. I could still see, but I couldn't blink. I had to peel it off with tweezers. It was organic, sticky. It bled. Inside the mirror, I saw something flicker behind my pupils, like TV static behind glass. I went to a doctor. He took one look into my eyes and gasped, not a gasp of fear, awe, like he'd seen something holy. "You're not supposed to have that," he whispered. "They don't usually choose people." "Who?" I asked. He smiled with tears in his eyes. "The audience. I don't know who or what they are, but I haven't had privacy in weeks. I'll be brushing my teeth and catch a flicker of someone else, someone watching. I'll close my eyes and feel the channel change. It's not random. Each day, the screens get clearer, the images get closer, and last night I saw my bedroom on one of them, but not as it was, as it will be. There were 5 people standing at the foot of my bed, watching, still, silent. I opened my eyes in real life and the room was empty, but they're scheduled to arrive. 10 ready for story